Interest. I see none. Minutes of the, you good?
Yep.
Minutes of the previous meeting, can I have mover and seconder, please? Member Ganzel, Member Stewart, any comments or questions on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Reports from the board chairperson. Now, one thing I'm going to say first, the chief of police as well as Deputy Forty are not here. They're at a presentation right now. The chief of police will be back by 9 o'clock, we're hoping. And therefore, we're going to be moving the consent agenda's items up after my reports. And we're going to, because the chief of police wants to make sure he's here for the St. Catharines presentation as well as some other items he has. So hopefully the timing just works out right on that. So first, the reports from the board chairperson. So right off the bat, I have to say, before we begin the public meeting, I would like to remind everyone in attendance that the Police Service Board meeting is being live streamed, and the video recording of today's meeting will be posted on the board's YouTube channel. And then first, as we made motion 2 months ago, and we were doing this at the beginning of every Police Service Board as is Regional Council, the tribute to Indigenous lands. I'd like to begin today's meeting by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe peoples, many of whom continue to live and work here today. This territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within the lands protected by the Dish and One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, the gathering place is home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and this acknowledgement reminds us that the great standard of living that we enjoy in Niagara is directly related to the resources and friendships of the Indigenous people who make up our community. Next on the agenda is the Christian French Annual Spotlight Gala and 10th anniversary. On October 18th, Member Stewart joined Deputy Chief Flynn and other service members at the Christian French Child Advocacy Centre of Niagara's annual Spotlight Gala at Club Roma in St. Catharines. The gala commemorated October as the Child Abuse Prevention Month in recognition of the children and youth who have either witnessed violence or have been victims of physical or sexual abuse or internet luring. Member Stewart, do you want to comment?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and through you, really enjoyed it. This was the third Spotlight Gala that they have held, and I have attended all three of them on behalf of the board. And it's an excellent opportunity. That organization doesn't have stable funding, so that the idea of these fundraising opportunities that they use to support the great work that they do. They're celebrating very shortly their 10th anniversary, and something that might be of interest to the community or people that weren't there is in that 10 years, they have provided services to over 3,000 children in Niagara. So in one way, it's kind of scary that we have to do that, but another way, it's good that we have an agency such as Christian French Child Advocacy Centre to provide those services and to assist all the agencies that deal with them in the best interest of the child. And I'm also very glad that they're one of our partners as a police service to assist us in keeping our children safe. So thank you for the opportunity to go there, and I'm very happy to represent the board there.
Very good, thank you very much. The next is the Chief Commendation Award Ceremony. On October 23rd, Vice Chair Ganzel, Member Stewart and I attended the Chief's Commendation Award Ceremony held here in the community room at Police Headquarters. The event recognized the heroic events of Constables Deidre Sikowski, Joe Bonazza, Jacob Smits, Chris Lindy, and citizen Marcel Terrian, all of which were on the scene to assist with the rescue of a young woman who fell through the ice on the Welland Canal attempting to rescue her dog. At the event, board members extended its collective appreciation to each of the honorees. Member Ganzel, would you like to talk about this?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and through you. First of all, I think this was covered quite a bit in the news when this event took place, but this was a heroic effort in the middle of winter. The air temperature was 0, and a lot has to be to the civilian person who was walking his dog nearby, who happened to basically come across the woman in distress and got 911 and mobilized. But in the interim, before emergency services arrived, he extended a stick out or a large tree branch in order to keep the woman from basically going under. Through the efforts of the Niagara Regional Police, EMS personnel that attended, and the Welland Fire Department, instead of having a tragedy, we have a success and a life was saved. And the service should be commended, as well as the rescuers and the officers that got the commendation. This was an extremely well-orchestrated rescue and shows the bravery of our members of this police service. So thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask Deputy Flynn, how do you go on with this story? Because this is such a great story. Even when the chief was explaining it, he said this is like made for a movie. The police extended their belts and helped. Everybody was falling through the ice. It could have been so tragic, and it turned out so well. So does it end there, or is there somewhere that people can pick this up and read about it, other than when the press covered it then? Like, where would the people find out about it? Anybody watching this right now that is wondering how this went down, how would they go to it? I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but if you can get back to us or whatever.
I can certainly get back to you, Chair. I don't know that, other than the media reports that did come out at the time and that followed with, we also know that Constable Lindy obviously was also awarded a Ontario Medal of Bravery and went to Queen's Park to receive that. I had the good fortune of being with him on that date. Maybe it's part of the profession. We don't tend to brag or to try and be front and center, and for that reason we probably don't see a lot of that on our internal website if people are looking for it. I can certainly talk to our corporate communications and see if it's something that might be appropriate to have a section about previous awards, because we've seen other certainly heroic acts over the last number of years where our members have been recognized provincially and nationally.
Yes, and I see the association president, Cliff Priest, is here. Hello, Cliff. They'd be, I'm sure, supportive of us putting down the great actions of the police on something like this, so we can go back to it and take a look at something like this, because this was a life and death situation that a team worked together on saving people, and it shows how dangerous the jobs can be and how it came out to a great outcome. So, Member Stewart.
Thank you, Chair. Just wondering, when you mentioned that, I mean, I see on Facebook when I go on there the different police things, and I wonder whether some recognition of the event and maybe an explanation of what happened might be one way of getting it out a little bit more to the public. I mean, we use it regularly for other purposes, and I think good news is also a good purpose.
So we'll leave it in your capable hands. Thank you very much. Next, the OAPSB Zone 4 meeting. The Ontario Association of Police Service Boards and the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police will be holding their Zone 4 quarterly meeting on November 15th at 8 a.m. The meeting is being hosted by the Halton Police Service Board, and the meeting location will be confirmed at a later date. Board members interested in attending are asked to confirm with Deb. Next, the Soup Kitchen Luncheon. Niagara Falls Community Outreach, otherwise known in Niagara Falls as the Soup Kitchen, has invited the Niagara Regional Police Service to participate with their Soup Kitchen program being held at the organization's administrative facility in Niagara Falls. On November 19th, board staff and myself will be joining Chief McCulloch and other service members to assist with the preparation and serving of lunch to some of Niagara's most needy and vulnerable citizens. Then we come to police records checks, information educational session. On November 20th, the service will be hosting an information session to educate individuals and community agencies on the new police records checks reform that comes into effect on November 1st. The session will be held there in the community room at police headquarters from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., and any board members interested in attending are asked to confirm with board staff. Now, I'll go on about this because this was brought up at a Rotary meeting I was talking at 6 months ago, where a lady said to me that people, and I remember Chief McGuire when he mentioned that even during the Pan Am Games, he had to get records checked, and everybody else, he just opened the doors for the teams to come off. So this lady said to me, if we have a whole bunch of sports groups together, soccer, hockey, whatever it is, and one person goes in there, can't they make it available to all these organizations to go online to look at her record check? And that rather than have her come in repeatedly, and that. I understand there's some laws against that, but there's some laws in favor of that. So there's a number of things. The vulnerable sector checks are causing volunteers not to show up, not to volunteer as much because it's a pain, especially for people out of Niagara Falls coming here for it. So it'd be nice to get together on this, and that's the purpose of this, and go back to the provincial government and say, hey, can we fine tune this? Because I know Member Stewart, your wife must be aware of this with her track and field and things like this, that it's tough we can't move fast if there's something coming up. And we have Canada Summer Games coming and things like this that'll set us far back. So I appeal, and I know that the service staff was going to get a hold of all the organizations that they could and invite the people here to vet their concerns on this. So I hope that is the case for November 20th. Okay, upcoming PSB meetings. The next PSB committee meeting is Thursday, November 8th at 8:30 here in the community room at Police Headquarters. The next PSB monthly board meeting, the next board meeting is Thursday, November 22nd at 8:30 a.m. in the community room at the Police Headquarters. So the chief's not here yet, so I'm sorry?
Do you want to ask the deputy, is there any part of the comments that he can provide for the chief?
No, I'll wait for the chief, and if not. Deb had just mentioned if you, Deputy Flynn, wanted to make any of the comments for the chief, but I'm going to give the chief a chance to be here after our consent agenda items, and if he doesn't show up, then I'll probably lean on you for some comments, if you don't mind. So if you don't mind, we're going to move to the consent agenda items. Items 184 to 192, I'd like to move them in block, and then whoever's first, we can go through the list. Member Bonham, seconded by Member Ganzel. Who wants to be first? Member Ganzel.
Thank you, Chair. This one deals with the authorized strength report. It's the report 185. Normally, we've always had the recruit officers in training. I see that number there. But the constable number is approximately 10 members higher. Usually that has a tendency to be slightly lower than the actual authorized or right at the same number. What is happening there? We are at the end of a day there, we're approximately 19 officers higher on the uniform side. If there's any background on that, that would be appreciated.
I'll turn to Director DiDonato DeCellis for that, sir.
So the 706 that shows as authorized strength, that does not include the extra 13 for our pre-hires that we are approved on top of the authorized strength. But in addition to that, I don't know if you remember, but last month there was a board report where we explained that we've now been hiring for the unpaid leaves. So we've taken a look at our average unpaid leaves. Actually, Member Stewart has been the one who's been the advocate for this, and we've been taking a look for the past couple of years at our average unpaid leave. So people who are on maternity leave, people who are on unpaid LTD, and we've been hiring above strength for those. So they're offset by, the salaries offset each other. So the person's off on an unpaid leave, and we are hiring based on the average number that we have off.
Okay, thank you. And what about the ones that are, because of an injury or something, deemed not to return to work? Are they part of that unpaid leave component?
No, that's a separate group. So those we actually budget separately, and we don't even include them in our authorized strength.
Okay, thank you. That explains it.
Okay, so any other comments on item 185? Go ahead, Member Ganzel.
Moving right along, 187. This one deals with communications and dispatch. I'm on page number 7, which lists a number of in-house training components. And I recognize the NINA conferences and some of the others, and Versaterm and et cetera. But I look at things like Navigator, which I have not seen before. Can somebody just give me a little bit of a background on this whole group of training and components? Is this all required for dispatch?
Based on our attendance today, sir, with the people we have, we'll probably have to get back to you to, and what I can do is provide a brief overview of what that training is.
Yeah, one-liners are fine, thank you.
Any other comments on item 187? Member Ganzel.
Now, this is 188. This deals with safe storage of police service firearms. On page 2 in the second paragraph, it says, but where uniform equipment is damaged, lost, refunded, a member of the police force member shall bear the cost of replacement. I guess my question is, have we had any lost or damaged items in the last year that covers this report?
I'm not aware of any items that have been lost or damaged. Certainly, sometimes happens as a result of on-duty work. I don't think that same expectation would be there. We would just be replacing it to make sure that everybody's safe.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that if an incident occurred where the officer got into a struggle or something and something was damaged, that he was not bearing the responsibility for that, and that it was part of our normal operating cost. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments on that item? Member Ganzel, more?
This one is a report on Oh. No, that's fine. It was a reference back to the communications one, but the deputy indicated that that would be covered later on, so I'm fine on that one. Thank you.
Anyone else? Member Stewart?
Thank you, Chair, and through you, it's item 192, domestic family violence. In reading through this, in case I've missed it or whatever it is, there's a lot of reference to Victim Services Niagara, which is a wonderful organization that supports us, and we support them in dealing with sexual assault, domestic violence. But I noticed, just because of an item earlier as well, that there's no mention of the Christian French Child Advocacy Center in here as an agency that helps support the police in dealing with family violence and all of that. So I'm wondering if I've missed something there, or whether it's something that we might be able to recognize in the future.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we'll certainly have a look and review. I mean, it's as a primary function with relation to the Christian French Child Advocacy Center. It typically has to do with the work of our child abuse and our ICE units, which obviously work hand in hand with domestic violence and the sexual assault units as well. But I think what this was pointing to, as well as the signees that are on the memorandum of understanding that we do have in relation to domestic violence.
And through you, Chair, just further to that, I know one of the roles of the Christian French Child Advocacy Center is working with and counseling with children who have witnessed violence. And there was a lot of talk in here about young people that witness violence and whatever. So I know there may be some overlap there, and I'm wondering if perhaps you could look at that and maybe let me know back about why it doesn't fit, or if it should be looked at in some context in this.
We'll do that.
Thank you.
Any other comments on 192? Member Ganzel?
No, thank you, Chair. Again, staying on 192, on page 3, it talks about the mobile tracking emergency response system. I see reference in here, but they've ordered some additional units. How many alarms have we had in the last year, 2017?
I would have to go to our stats and get that for you, sir. But I don't want to say that it's all the time, but it's certainly not a rarity. I also sit on the Victim Services Board of Directors, and it has been, I would say, for lack of a better term, very useful and advantageous for us to have it. And our members are very aware of the system and respond with great haste when they know that they're going to one of those alarms.
Yeah, I think it would be important, especially in this document, just to say how many there are. Again, I fully support this type of a device and the technology behind that in order to address people that have had issues of domestic violence and that, but a number would be quite helpful.
Thank you. No other questions on 192? Member Stewart, do you have any other ones? Anyone else for any questions? Member Bonham?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and through you. 193, the fitness for duty.
That's not in consent agenda, so we'll be coming to that.
Oh, isn't it? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, sorry. Do you have any others, or no? Anyone else have any consent agenda items, questions? Okay, I do on item 191, and that's the body armor, but this is with body cams. I know it's not part of it, but I don't see anything on it. Can you just give us an update, or I'll ask for one at the next meeting, Deputy Flynn, because I know we deferred to Toronto. They were studying body cams, and it's been years, and I know there was talk about the storage of the information as well as the cost of the body cams and that. Do you have any idea of an update on how successful they are, or what they're doing, or the percentage? I'm not trying to put you on the spot. If you don't, I'd like to get a report in the next meeting.
We can certainly do that, Mr. Chair. I mean, looking at the evidence that's being collected across the country, I think it's a very slow movement in Canada, certainly in comparison to what we've seen in the U.S. We don't have a lot of evidence showing, if we're talking about a reduction of complaints or whatever, some of the aspects that are out there. We have mixed reviews on what that looks like, but we also have some anecdotal evidence that officers feel more enabled once they're comfortable with the technology to not be wrongly accused, or to have those claims come in that they've they've breached the law in some way or, interfered with a person's rights. So there's certainly arguments both ways. My executive officer attended a meeting recently in Toronto, and I'm sure that she has some literature on the findings there, and we can incorporate that into our report to you.
Okay, I know that they were studying it up in Toronto and that, and I'm not looking for a long report, but just, I'm surprised that they've taken this long with doing it. One question, is there any service that you know of in Canada that's totally body cams?
I would have to check. I
okay.
know that Calgary and Edmonton have done an extensive amount of work over the last number of years, so it may be fully deployed in some of those locations.
Thank you very much for that. Anybody have any questions on that item? Any other consent agenda items? Questions? Okay, all those in favor? Carried. So now we're going to take a recess until the chief gets here because he wants to be involved in all these next items, starting with the presentation. So we'll come back to this meeting as soon as the chief comes in. Thank you. We're going to resume this meeting, please. So the first item will be the reports from the board, from the Chief of Police. Welcome back, Chief.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to, we put together a video, and I think I spoke about this the last board meeting that we had in Niagara-on-the-Lake with regards to the Cops for Cancer tour to Golden Horseshoe. And so, as you're aware, that event took place between September 18th and 21st, which involved a number of our NRPS members, as well as Member Caslin, who participated on the team as well. The event was very successful, raised approximately $180,000 for pediatric cancer research, which exceeded our goal by over $50,000. More importantly, it was a great opportunity for us to engage with our local communities, in particular about 29 schools. So it was a great opportunity to meet and engage with our youth. So without any further ado, I'll have Ms. Reed play the video.
All available units, please respond to reports of an aggressive fight in progress. Several young victims need our assistance immediately. This fight is 400 kilometers away, so proceed code 1.
So we're here today to participate in a head shaving initiative as part of the Cops for Cancer initiative. Cops for Cancer, the cycling tour is an initiative that flows out of British Columbia where we're raising money for pediatric cancer research and engaging the community in a positive way. So very thankful for the community and very thankful for the Great Wolf Lodge for having us out here today.
How are you actually preparing for the actual event in September? So you're going to be going to schools here in Niagara to talk about this great event. What have you been doing to prepare for that?
Well, we've been spending some time in the saddle, and I don't think I have enough time in yet, but we've been getting out on the weekends as a group and doing rides. I think last weekend we were up around 76 kilometers, so we're going to need a little bit more of that before we get there.
Very good. Congratulations. That was a great video. And please pass along our congratulations to Bill 40 as well on this. One question, how does hair grow back so quickly?
We're all asking the same question.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Before we go anywhere, does anybody else have any other comments to the Chief on the video? Member Gansell.
Yeah, I was here when they left the building at 7:30 in the morning. It was very impressive, and from the video I can see that the impressiveness continued through the 3 days you were on the road. So from a bystander's perspective, extremely well done, job well done, and the financial funds raised were outstanding, and I would certainly support this going forward in years ahead. So thank you.
Member Caslin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. It was an honor to be a part of the ride. I can tell you that it was amazing seeing all the kids. You know, I was fortunate enough to be there alongside all the frontline men and women that of the force that I have a tremendous respect for, and I was extremely proud to be part of that.
Any other comments? Chief.
Thank you very much for your comments, and I can tell you that as recent as yesterday, we're getting inquiries from schools looking to advance it for next year, so plans are well underway, so thank you for your support on that. I'll continue on with my report. With respect to homicides during the reporting period, we did not have any homicides. For the year, we are sitting at 2 homicides, comparatively 3 in 2017, 1 in 2016, 6 in 2015, and 3 in 2014. There's only 1 fatal collision in the region in September, and there were no life-threatening motor vehicle collisions. So far this year to date, there have been a total of 14 fatal collisions. Comparatively, in 2017, there were 18, and in 2016, there were 20 for the entire year. So I'll just go into that one collision, fatal collision that occurred. So on Friday, September the 7th, 2018, at approximately 10:40 a.m., our officers responded to a report of a single motor vehicle collision on Highway 20 east of Allenberg Bridge in the city of Thorold. Initial investigation revealed that a 2005 Hyundai Santa Fe was being driven eastbound on Highway 20 by a 54-year-old Hamilton female. Driver lost control of the vehicle, struck the guardrail, and then crossed the westbound lane of traffic and came to rest in the ditch on the west side of the road. The female was pronounced at the scene, and that collision remains under investigation by our traffic reconstruction unit. In the news, commencing on Monday, October the 1st through Wednesday, October 31st, the Niagara Regional Police Service and Police Services Board will be conducting a community satisfaction survey on policing in Niagara as it prepares to develop its 2019 to 2021 business plan. The service has retained the services of Dr. Irwin Cohen and Amanda McCormick from the Center for Public Safety and Community Justice Research at the University of Fraser Valley to conduct the telephone survey of randomly drawn households in Niagara. In total, 1,000 interviews will be conducted in this telephone survey. Members of the public will be contacted to complete the 15-minute telephone survey. Questions are related to their perception of police effectiveness, their sense of safeness in the community, the importance of community programs delivered, and future policing priorities. Members of the public should be assured that no personal identifying information, such as their name, home address, or any other personal information, will be asked at any time during the course of the interview, nor will any charitable donations be solicited. During the evening of Saturday, September 29th, 2018, the Niagara Regional Police Traffic Enforcement Unit conducted a ride enforcement campaign where approximately 350 vehicles were stopped. One driver was subsequently arrested for the criminal offense of failing to provide a sample of breath and was issued a 90-day license suspension and a 7-day vehicle impound. In addition, numerous fines were issued to drivers in contravention of the Highway Traffic Act, the Compulsory Automobile Insurance Act, and a City of St. Catharines bylaw for one driver not having the appropriate license to operate an Uber service. Members of the St. Catharines Street Crime Unit, along with our Guns, Gangs, and Grow Unit, have been investigating a male and female regarding their involvement in the sale of cocaine and fentanyl in the City of St. Catharines. During the course of the investigation, police made observations that were consistent with an individual who was operating a mobile drug trafficking operation. On October 2nd, police conducted their investigation and arrested this male in the area of Queenston Street and Riordan Street in the City of St. Catharines. 26-year-old man from the Toronto area was arrested and charged with trafficking and possession of the proceeds of crime. A quantity of crack cocaine and a large quantity of Canadian currency was also seized. In the month of October, members of our One District Street Crime Unit started an investigation into the alleged sale of fentanyl, cocaine, and crack cocaine by a male in St. Catharines. Surveillance conducted on this male led police to form grounds to arrest him for these offenses, which occurred at the intersection of Geneva and Carleton Street in the City of St. Catharines. Police searched the male and a significant amount of fentanyl, powder cocaine, and crack cocaine, along with an amount of currency believed to be the proceeds of his drug sales. 21-year-old male from Toronto was arrested and charged with possession for the purpose of trafficking fentanyl, possession for the purpose of trafficking cocaine, and possession of proceeds of property obtained by crime. At approximately 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday, October the 9th, a 23-year-old victim was operating her vehicle in rural Wainfleet when the 65-year-old accused began tailgating her vehicle. The victim pulled to the side of the roadway, allowing the accused to pass. However, he intentionally sideswiped the victim's vehicle 3 times, causing both vehicles to enter the ditch. The vehicle then called 911, and at this point, the accused retrieved a hammer and started to strike the victim's vehicle windshield. The accused shouted profanities at her and threatened to kill her. Police arrived shortly after and observed the accused standing at the victim's driver's door, threatening the victim. The accused refused the commands of officers and challenged police to a fight. This resulted in our officers deploying a conductive energy weapon or a taser that proved to be effective in assisting police to gain control of the accused. Police canine unit attended and were able to locate the weapon in the cornfield some distance away. And the victim and the accused in this case are not known to one another. So it's a very unusual occurrence, to say the least. A troubling one at that as well. Excuse me. On Monday, October 15th, members of our Niagara Falls Street Crime Unit were involved in the investigation into the trafficking of narcotics in the city of Niagara Falls. Police conducted surveillance and made observations of individuals that were consistent with trafficking of narcotics from a local motel. These 3 individuals were observed leaving in a vehicle, and they were subsequently arrested. And we seized a quantity of crystal methamphetamine and heroin with a street value of $2,500. And then finally, on October 18th, an 18-year-old man from Kitchener-Waterloo was arrested in relation to the armed robbery which occurred on March 8th at the Toronto Dominion Bank in Pelham. Following a lengthy joint investigation involving numerous police services in the province, the man has been charged with robbery using a firearm, disguised with intent to commit an indictable offense, and unauthorized possession of a firearm. The Niagara Regional Police would like to extend their appreciation to members of the public and the downtown businesses in the town of Pelham who cooperated with this investigation. 2 suspects are still outstanding, and investigators are still actively investigating this robbery. Any members of the public who may have information regarding this robbery, of course, are encouraged to contact our investigators working out of Welland, or of course they can contact Crime Stoppers and provide an anonymous tip. And that's all I have for my report. Thank you.
Anybody have any questions of the chief? Thank you, Chief. Okay, we're into presentations now. Our first one is item number 183. Mayor Walter Sendzik, please come to the podium. There's a presentation by the City of St. Catharines regarding permanent downtown foot patrol. Mayor Sendzik, and is Tisha here as well? Is she in the back? So we have 10-minute presentations, so please hit the button and you're away. Thank you.
All right, I forgot the passcode on my iPad, so I'm just gonna try and remember it. Wow, that just completely went out of my head. First, I just want to acknowledge the ride for Cops for Cancer. That was amazing, and just seeing the smiles on both the kids and the participants, and being there at the end, and seeing how much was raised in the community, it really does show how much the Niagara Regional Police gives back to the community. And I want to acknowledge the Chair Caslin, who was a part of that, and that was a great community event. It really brought a lot of people together. So if you can pass on from the City of St. Catharines our thanks to the organizers, the riders, and everyone else. And hopefully it's going to be an annual event.
Yeah, thank you, I'll do that.
Yes. Yeah, thanks. All right. Technology at its best. Got a paper copy. So really the essence of the presentation here today is to talk about a council request for the consideration of increased foot patrol in the downtown community of St. Catharines. And I want to start by acknowledging Inspector Sawicki, who has been working very closely with the city and the city staff on a number of issues, as well as the chief, Deputy Chief Flynn and Deputy Chief Forty, who have all three have come to City Council regarding the recent incidents that happened in the downtown area over the last month and a half, and created and provided assurance that the Niagara Regional Police are doing all that they can to create safe communities, not just in St. Catharines, but across Niagara. We are facing some increased pressures, and I don't think I'm speaking to those who don't see them in our downtown. We have a consolidation of mental health services that has taken place through Niagara, the Niagara Health System. And as such, that location in St. Catharines has created pressures in our downtown as we're seeing an increase of those who are challenged with mental health issues migrating into the downtown area, because we do have additional services that are being provided in St. Catharines to support the acute care that takes place at the hospital. In addition to that, we also have become a center for addiction care as well. So when you look at the level of addiction services that we have in St. Catharines, it has become a point of attraction for those who are looking to break the cycle of addiction, but it also draws into our community those who are seeking the service but may still be caught in that trap of addiction. So we're seeing an increase in our downtown of those activities. And I know Tish Polacco, who's from the Downtown Association, will be talking about what their members are seeing. And what we're asking for from council's perspective is an increased presence of foot patrol in the downtown area. But beyond that, we're looking to the Niagara Regional Police, the senior team and the board to bring up ways and means that we can partner potentially on projects that would create the enhanced security. When you look at what's happening in communities across Canada and Ontario and indeed Niagara, it's not just St. Catharines that's struggling with the issues that I've talked about, but we do have and have become that urban center in Niagara. So we have the Meridian Center with over 5,500 seats for any given game, or 6,000 if you include concerts that take place, as well as the First Ontario Performing Arts Center with 4 different theaters in there. On any given night, all 4 theaters have activities taking place. So we're bringing thousands of people into our downtown on a regular basis, and we have new Brock University student residences that are living in the downtown, and in addition to the Marilyn I. Walker School of Fine Performing Arts. So it's really changed in the last 5 years in terms of the dynamics of who's in our downtown. We've got students in our downtown, we have customers who are going to our events in downtown, and we have our professional services who are working in our downtown during the day. So our efforts are to create that safe space for everyone. And we recognize that it's not easy, it's not cheap, but we're looking for partnerships, and we're looking for commitments from the Niagara Regional Police to have a budget line in there that talks about foot patrol on a permanent basis moving forward to help increase that sense of security in our downtown. Is that the silver bullet, as they say, for how we create safe places? That's not the silver bullet. But if it's an opportunity to have it as part of an expanded plan for safe downtowns, the city of St. Catharines is more than willing to sit at the table and try and find other ways and means as well to help enhance that safety that we want people to feel when they come into our downtown. So I think that covers the essence of what council has requested. And I do want to again acknowledge that the Niagara Regional Police, when requested, have come to council. They've been forthright in what they're experiencing on the ground, and also the challenges that they face when it comes to resources. So we're well aware of the resource challenges that the Niagara Regional Police face, but we also want to be a partner at the table to come to agreements so that our members of our public feel safe in our downtown. And as they say, perception is reality. I work and live in the downtown area. I believe it to be a safe downtown, but there's a perception that there's a growing unease when people are coming into our downtown, and we want to get ahead of that rather than have to continue to be reactive to that. So if there's any questions, sorry, Mr. Chair, I apologize, but that's the end of the presentation.
So thank you for that. And before we open up to the board for questions on that, the chief was at City Hall a month and a half ago, or approximately, and I know he was questioned about this motion, and I know the motion was from March, and I understand that it was forgotten to be sent to us by your office, but I won't dwell on that or be critical of that, but we knew nothing about it. Now that we have it, I understand you said a budget line item on it, and I understand that, so we have to defer these things to the service, and he comes back to us. You're welcome to come back to us when they come back with their report. It'll be public on this, but until then, now we'll be delaying the budget. I talked it over with the chief. We'll be delaying our budget till January, I believe it is, because it will take a new board to analyze this so that we can come up with the right decision on this, probably the services. So I'll open it up for questions. Member Barrick.
Great, thank you, through you, Chair. To the Mayor. Mayor Sendzik, welcome. It's very refreshing to have you here today. There's issues with respective downtowns across the region, including Port Colborne. And so it's what the message that you're delivering is a common theme. It's probably more acute just because of sheer volume and numbers in downtown St. Catharines being a larger municipality. But this board has taken lengths to get into respective communities. And I understand, I don't believe we actually have held a meeting in St. Catharines yet, but perhaps that can be something in the next term that can be done. But we have made a point of going around to respective municipalities recently, Port Colborne, Fort Erie, Niagara Lake, Welland, et cetera. But so far, no one's come here. Except for yourself today. So thanks so much for that. And it's very refreshing because we hear from other local councils through resolutions making requests and often skeptical or critical, which is fine. But to have you here today showing up yourself and stating that you'd like to be a partner in the process is incredible. So thanks again. Part of the kind of partnership theme though, and getting into details, I don't want to get into too much detail because that's the chief's role in terms of the operations, but what would you envision the City of St. Catharines' role in being in terms of partnership on addressing this particular issue with the police services?
Well, and it's a great question, and thank you for the comments, Councillor Barrick. And when you look at Board Member Barrick, I have to delineate between the two, Board Member Barrick. What we're looking at is what kind of technologies can be adopted. I know we have CCTV downtown in certain areas. I wasn't on council when the approvals for those were brought forward. I don't know if they were part of a partnership with other levels of government. But looking at when those were installed, I don't believe we had the Meridian Center and the First Ontario Performance Center operating. So looking at it, are we deficient in the amount of closed caption TVs that we have in our downtown, considering the volume of people that are coming through our downtown? I would like to note that as part of the investigation of one of the incidents that took place, it was the CCTVs that had clear caption of what was taking place. That was a great moment to be able to show the public that, you know, although an incident did take place, the Niagara Regional Police had on camera which they were able to release to the public. So what is it that we can partner with? And we've installed cameras, outside cameras at the library, which has been a hotspot for certain activities. We've installed additional cameras at City Hall that point towards the streets. So working with the Niagara Regional Police, how can we utilize technology like that so that those who are thinking about doing something in our community that is against the law will recognize that they are being captured visually on cameras and they're not going to get away with it. So we're looking for those type of partnerships, and we don't have the answers for that.
Thank you, through you, Chair. That's great. Thanks for that response. So really, the police services can't do it alone. We have, I think, partnerships as one of our key themes in our business plan, certainly the existing one, if not the next one. I wouldn't mind seeing this as kind of a pilot in terms of how we specifically partner with local municipalities and potentially rolling it out to other areas as well. I know we have the hub model in Port Colborne that's working really well on a preemptive basis with those relationships. But I haven't heard anything like what Mayor Sendzik has been talking about, so I'm happy to explore that. With that said, I know I'm just kind of making comments and asking questions to the presenter, but I would like to, when the time is appropriate, Chair, refer the requests to the budget process and referring it back to staff to get their feedback on what the budgetary request would be to fulfill this obligation or this request from the Mayor of St. Catharines.
I appreciate that, but Member Castle's next, and you've spoken to it, so Member Castle.
No, I'm not going to, but refer it now, but when the time comes.
Okay,
Thanks.
Member Castle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mayor Sendzik, for attending today. It is a serious issue. It has been brought up a number of times, and as a business owner in downtown St. Catharines, I can appreciate why it's here. I do think it needs to be referred to the service for further consideration, and also the budget impacts that it's going to have. I'm hopeful that we can do something significant and something meaningful there. So with that, I'm going to ask if I could please refer that to the service for their diligence and come back to the board with some recommendations.
Okay, so we have a motion to refer, a seconder for that. I'm not concerned to stop you on this because it's coming back to us for questions when they do it. So Member Bonham, you'll second it, the referral? Yes. All those in favor of referral to the service? Carried. Okay, Chief, when you come back with it, please make sure the mayor knows about it, and Mayor, if you want to come back when they address it, we'll give you that in advance so you know where they're coming from, so you can understand that.
Just from a procedural perspective, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to provide any comments with regards to some of our actions that we're doing in St.
Can I
Catharines.
ask then, at the next presentation, we'll allow it with Tish, because we just had a referral, and so I'll go to you right off the bat after Tish. Tish, if that's okay with you? Thank you for that. Tish, thank you. Be prepared for comments from the chief as soon as you're done on this, but Ms. Tish Polacco, the Executive Director of St. Catharines Downtown Association, that's item 2 on this. So
Thank you.
You have 10 minutes, but please.
Good morning. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and you can tell my age. I'm old school. I have it on paper. As indicated in the letter of October 5th, which you all have a copy of, the St. Catharines Downtown Association is the designated improvement area of the downtown of St. Catharines. We represent about 550-plus commercial property owners and their tenants within our geographical boundary. So I'm here basically advocating on their behalf. A lot of time and effort and resources have been put forth to help with the revitalization of downtown St. Catharines, resulting with amazing new venues, as Mayor Sendzik indicated, beautiful new streetscapes that have helped to increase positive pedestrian flow at all hours of the day and evening. Many new businesses have opened as a result of the renewed interest in the downtown, as well as many property owners taking the initiative to improve their property, reflecting on the streetscape. But in order for these efforts to continue, we also need to make sure our citizens feel safe and comfortable. Downtown St. Catharines is the largest urban center in the Niagara region, and with that, the area also has the largest concentration of illegal and criminal activity, which of course the Niagara Regional Police Service's stats can substantiate with their numbers of calls for service. But just this past 2 Saturday evenings in a row, we have seen large commercial storefront windows on James Street smashed, as well as an attempt to break a window at the Scotiabank at the corner of St. Paul and James. All of these incidences happened at approximately between 1:30 and 1:40 a.m. This is certainly a peak time in the downtown core, and we have a number of young individuals out enjoying themselves, as they should be. But we do require police and foot patrol to help keep everyone safe and to also help discourage the type of behavior that allowed for these windows to be broken. The downtown core has been adversely affected by the relocation of the Niagara Regional Police Headquarters, and we're really concerned that we will see further setbacks when the District 1 station relocates outside of the business area in the near future. The unfortunate loss of many officers just walking to and from their vehicles or grabbing a coffee at one of the many downtown establishments has directly affected the composition of the area on a daily basis. And as Mayor Senzik indicated, the library is a perfect example of problems and has resulted in increased security and maintenance provided by the city. I've had a very positive conversation with District 1 Commander Zwicky just recently, and I appreciate the call from him, indicating that they are looking at a foot patrol officer for daytime hours. This is definitely wonderful news, and we hope this could be a positive, not just a temporary assignment. Officer Zwicky also indicated that he does have officers patrolling the downtown core on a Saturday evening. I'm just concerned that the complement may not be enough, and these past 2 weekends were apparent. I'm certainly aware of the budgetary constraints on the Niagara Regional Police Services, but feel that it is essential that reallocation and collaboration be looked at further to ensure we have a balance of officers needed in the downtown core. This will positively result in fewer calls for service, as the stats would show. So on behalf of the membership of the St. Catharines Downtown Association, I respectfully ask that the complement of officers needed to minimize issues afflicting downtown St. Catharines being increased, as this will result in a constructive outcome for all. Thank you again. I really appreciate the time this morning.
Thank you very much. So I'll open up for questions on to Member Bonham. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and good morning, Tisha. Thank you for your presentation. I happened to read your presentation, and I have one concern, and that is that apparently it's the opinion of the St. Catharines Downtown Association that the District 1 station is relocating out of the business core.
Yes.
And yet I've been told, since I became a member of the board, that there was a conscious decision made by Regional Council to ensure that the new District 1 station and its site was selected within the downtown business core. And in fact, the residents and the ratepayers of the region of Niagara have paid a premium upon selecting that site due to cleanup costs. So I'm just wondering if the position of the City of St. Catharines is, where is it? Is it in the business core or is it not within the business core? Thank you.
Well, it's out of the business improvement area boundaries, the boundaries that I represent. So that is why I cited that in there.
Okay, so strictly speaking, it's, from our perspective, it's within the business core, but it's outside of the boundaries of your association.
I think I'd have to refer to Mayor Senzik on that if he felt that that was still the case.
Thank you.
I'm going to interrupt that in fairness to Mayor Senzik. He and I both weren't on this, but Member Caslin, you were on the council at that day, if you don't mind refreshing us on it, unless you want to say something. Okay.
It is within the downtown urban boundary, but not within the downtown association's represented area.
Yeah,
So we did in fact pay a significant premium in order for us to keep it in the downtown, within the downtown urban boundary, at the request of the then Mayor Brian McMullen, for the same reasons that we're here today.
Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you. And anything else? I'm sorry. Member Ganzel.
Thank you. Basically, because I didn't have an opportunity to get in on this piece of questioning, one of the things I think that's important is we need to hear from the chief as to a strategy to respond to this request in here. And once we know what that response or strategy might be, any budget impacts would then be presented back. So I think we need to make sure that the cart is not put in front of the horse. We need to know from the chief as to these concerns that are in this documentation, how are these going to be addressed by the service in a partnership or et cetera. And if there's a cost component to that, then it would get included into the budget and then that would come back. So I think it's important to look at the strategy of how we're going to address some of the issues that have been outlined today by the mayor and yourself. And then from there, the budget component will flow. So that's my only question, to make sure we don't get ahead of the proper procedure of putting
understood.
A and then A and then B. Thank you.
So unless anybody else has any questions, do you? I'll go to the chief after you. Oh, okay, I'd like to make some comments just before that, if you don't mind. Chief, please.
Thank you very much. What I can say is that from the service perspective, we've enjoyed a very collaborative and cooperative relationship with the Mayor Sendzik and his council and with the BIA, which has really been formed on the basis of open two-way dialogue. Our message as a command team has been that we wanted to have an increased officer presence, not just in the downtown of St. Catharines, but throughout our entire region that we're responsible for policing. And that included officers getting out and doing foot patrols, doing bike patrols whenever possible. Of course, recognizing that there are many, many competing demands for their time. I can tell you, Inspector Sawicki has really done his part in delivering that message on our behalf to the frontline officers in one district. And despite the fact that they have the highest call volume in the entire region, they are getting out and they are doing foot patrols. Inspector Sawicki has provided me with the statistics. Up until as of October 22nd, they've been out 161 times on either foot patrol or bike patrols in the downtown core. I don't think it's important that foot patrols and bike patrols are not a panacea, and they are not going to solve all the world's problems. I don't want to create a false sense of security. And I think the recent shooting incident in downtown St. Catharines really solidifies that, because our investigators viewing the video that was captured on the CCTV cameras can confirm that there were many, many, many officers on foot patrol that particular night and many officers in vehicles. There was a very large presence of officers in the downtown core, and that didn't protect or prevent that incident from happening. So I just want to clarify that point. As for CCTV cameras, I believe it was in and around 2012 that CCTV cameras were implemented in downtown St. Catharines. That was there was a grant application that went forward, I think through the Ministry of the Attorney General's office, which was supported by the board of the day at the time. And we worked collaboratively with the City of St. Catharines and the Privacy Commissioner to install those cameras in downtown St. Catharines. And part of that was a privacy assessment that had to be done to assure the Privacy Commissioner that there was a need to have those cameras in that particular area, and we were able to establish that. We worked collaboratively with the city then, and I can tell you that in furtherance to Mayor Sendzik's comments about further CCTV camera potentially in the area of the library, Queenston Street area, whatever areas are of concern, we're willing to be part of those discussions and work collaboratively with the City of St. Catharines and the BIA with regards to that. The issues in downtown St. Catharines, as Mayor Sendzik alluded to, they're complex. They're not something that the police are going to resolve. There's homelessness, there's poverty, there's drug addictions, there's mental health. There is certainly a role for the police to be a part of the solution, but we are not the only solution to that problem. And so I would, as Mayor Sendzik has indicated, with the NHS in St. Catharines being the central hub for mental health and addictions treatment, that has brought a significant number of people who are challenged with drug addictions and with mental health issues and poverty and homelessness into our downtown core. And in many cases, they are doing nothing illegal, so it becomes very challenging for what we can do as a police service other than be there. I can tell you as well that we are committed to foot patrols and officer presence. We believe that it does have a positive impact on the community, and we will work creatively with the city and the BIA to come up with potential solutions, of which one we've already been able to address. Inspector Sawicki has been able to reprioritize an officer, and starting on Monday, he will be deployed to foot patrol duties, working Monday to Friday, and with some flexibility with regards to scheduling and whatnot. But we are addressing that, and they will be further augmented by any other officer working in St. Catharines to assist with foot patrols.
Thank you, Chief. You hit everything and much more than what I was going to ask. Tisha, you're a citizen down there in that. I'm going to allow it if you have any other comments. Do you have anything else? I know this will be
yes.
referred back to the service,
Sure.
just like the same thing, but
Yeah.
please.
I just want to acknowledge that we realize, we have a larger impact of marginalized individuals, mental health concerns, and we realize that it takes a lot of different organizations, not just the Niagara Regional Police. So just working together, and we totally understand that.
Thank you very much. Member McKendrick.
Just thank you to Chief McCullough. I had a lot of notes, but you've covered them all. And thank you to Mayor Sendzik for representing the issues and the complexity beyond mental health and addictions, and also identifying the arts and the sports and the growth of the city as contributing to part of that complexity, and not just mental health and addictions being part of the problem. And also supporting the chief's comments that it's not necessarily a policing. We have housing, we have poverty, we have other issues that need to be addressed beyond mental health and addictions. And knowing that Mayor Sendzik has been very active in getting mental health and addictions agencies together to ensure that actions are being taken and conversations are happening in that area. I am wondering how this links to the survey that the police service is doing, because we're talking about perception as reality, and there is perception, and I'm wondering what kind of data we're going to get from the survey for reality to help us with those decisions, but also hearing that it's going to, I would suggest that it be referred back to the service for consideration of the data and those decisions.
Okay, really, because you've spoken to it at length, I'm going to have Member Barrick referred, if that's okay.
Okay, sorry.
So
Thank
if you have anything else to speak, then.
Nope, I'm good, thanks.
Okay. Member Barrick? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Member Stewart.
Just to respond to member here in the survey situation, people that respond to the survey will be asked which municipality they reside in, and therefore we can break down the data to see whether people in certain areas are feeling more or less safe depending on the areas they're in. So data will come out that will probably support one way or the other, or whether not just St. Catharines but other places may be feeling the same way. So, but when the results are analyzed, that will come out. So just wanted to respond to that a bit.
Very good, thank you. Chief, do you have anything else? Very good. Member Barrick.
Move to refer back to staff as part of the 2019 budget deliberations, considerations.
Seconded by Member Casson. All in favor of the referral? Carried. Thank you very much, Tish. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, next item is number 193, the NRPS Fitness for Duty Policy. A mover and seconder for this report, please. Member Ganzel, Member Stewart. Chief, do you want to talk to this first before any questions on this? I'm sorry, I didn't see you get up. The Fitness for Duty Policy, number 193. Or do you want us to just bring questions to you? I think it'd be nice for you to do a little highlight on it if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I'll provide some brief comments with regards to the policy, and certainly I just provided comments at the Ontario Senior Officers Police Association Conference, which is being held in Niagara Falls, just down the road, and my comments at the conference was, none of us ever envisioned a time when police leaders around the province and around the country would have to entertain the prospect of recreational cannabis being used by our members, both sworn and civilian members of the police service, on their off-duty time. So the policy is something that we have really wrestled with, and and tried our best to try and remove our own personal biases from that, because quite frankly, I've grown up in an era my entire life where marijuana was illegal. The fact that it's legal now, I don't plan on changing my habits with regards to cannabis, but I recognize as well that it's a personal choice. So our policy that we've developed is one that has aligned itself with the recommendations of the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police Human Resource Committee, with the Board of Directors of the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police, as well as the OACP Legal Advisory Committee. So we feel comfortable in where we've landed with regards to our policy, that we're not on an island, and that the vast majority of police services not only across Ontario but across Canada have arrived at a policy that's quite similar to ours with respect to Fit for Duty. Fit for Duty is something that, as I've mentioned in the past, is something that our profession has taken seriously over the years. We have, over the course of time, have had very few incidents where that has been an issue, where an individual has had an issue with not being fit for duty. And fit for duty can, obviously be alcohol, prescription drugs, or illicit drugs as well, or could also be fatigue, or there are a number of factors that play into fit for duty. So again, the policy that we've arrived at, there's been a tremendous amount of consultation around where we've arrived, and I would be happy to entertain any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, Chief. Member Stewart.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the Chief. Is not so much a question as a comment, because I did have an opportunity. We were sent out the policy to look over, and I would actually like to commend you and your senior team for the way you've handled it. I think with the last number of months, the word marijuana has been probably the most used word in every media outlet, whether television, radio, or newspapers or magazines. And I really appreciate the way you put it in context as one of many possible substances that will affect our employees' fitness for duty. And I think that's where it belongs, and it doesn't belong highlighted. It belongs part of a bigger picture. And I appreciate the way that you've handled it. I've heard of a couple of other services that were on the radio in the past couple of weeks that I think handled it in a very different way. And when I listened to it on the radio, I was almost shocked, thinking, this is just going to lead to a big mess. And I certainly appreciate the approach that you and your senior team have taken to this, and I think it's going to work out well, because the real focus is not marijuana. The real focus is, are our officers fit for duty to go out and do the best job they're capable of doing? And I think that's the important part, and the message that I read through what you've done. So I commend you and your team for what you put together here.
Thank you very much. If I could also just add, I noticed that President of the Association, Mr. Clifford Priest, is in the back. And we've worked very collaboratively with the association in developing our Fit for Duty policy. And in developing a message that went out to our members, and developing a video that went out for our members, and expressing the importance of our members to continue on what they've always been doing, and that's being professional and attending work fit for duty. And I can tell you from the association's perspective, they have piggybacked on that message and have delivered in lockstep a virtually an identical message, which I think bodes well for all of us as well.
Thank you. Any other comments? Member Bonham.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and through you, and thank you, Chief, for the presentation. I don't think I've seen a report in the last 3 and some odd years that comes to the board that summarizes the number of incidents we have on an annualized basis where we have identified, at least subjectively, somebody showing up and not being fit for duty. Is that true, that there's no routine reporting to the board on that issue? Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there has not been a reporting requirement for us to bring that forward to the board. There hasn't been, at least in the past, that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
Any other comments? So, Chief, I've done a couple interviews before I got elected and things like this, and I stand by the same stance. I'm proud of you, just like Member Stewart said, proud of how this has gone down compared to other forces like Calgary and Toronto with the way they've done it, but I'm really hoping and praying that no one gets hurt as a result of cannabis, be it an accident, be it an officer or anything like this. And then from my financial sense, I'm hoping that we aren't taken to the Supreme Court as a result of this, because it's going to happen. Let it be one of the Toronto or somebody that has one of these policies that we don't agree with on it. So I'm proud of you for what you did. Thank you very much. No other questions? All those in favor of this? Carried. Thank you. Next item and last item is number C-182, and that's to bring an item into public. That's the draft operating budget for the Niagara Police Service Board. Mover and seconder on this item, please. Member Stewart, Member McKendrick. Any comments on this item before it goes public? I just have one comment saying, good job, Deb, again, on this. Thank you. All those in favor? Carried. Any other items for new business in public? Chief, do you have anything else?
I have nothing further. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's the end of the public meeting for today. Thank you.